What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. Today, I am super excited to have a friend of mine from Edina, Minnesota, who has a independent insurance agency, Kaplan Insurance, out of Plymouth. So, Brad Kaplan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, super happy that you're doing this. You're fresh off of the Hawksoft Hug convention, so I'm looking forward to getting into that.
Sure.
But as we always do, why don't you tell us how you got into the insurance space?
Well, you got a couple hours? No,
Yeah.
but the Cliff Notes version is I was running a mortgage banking operation and really wasn't loving that. It's really a very transactional business. I'm more of a relationship driven guy, so it was very frustrating for me. Although the money was pretty good, it was really frustrating. You do a deal with someone and get involved with them for a month, then they would close on their loan, and you'd never talk to them again. But you'd market to them for years and years, hoping because they're going to refinance or buy another house someday. So you spend all this time and energy on them. They don't give you a second thought. You bump into them at the grocery store and they high five you and say, "Yeah, I just refied," like your best buddies, and you're looking at them like, "You just took my mortgage payment away from me. Thanks." And so, um, I really was interested in finding more of a relationship driven industry. And I had some friends in insurance. It was really intriguing for me. I like the idea of building a residual income, but more predictable. I like to use the word predictable, to where I'm not reinventing the wheel every month and every year. So for those two reasons, I started an insurance agency with the thought of weaning myself off of mortgage, and that would be a natural feeder to the insurance side of business. And only to find out that the housing market disappeared. The bank I was running this branch for filed bankruptcy, gave me notice that I had a week to close out all the loans. And at that very same time, my wife was undergoing a serious health issue and kidney failure. And I had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old at home.
Wow.
And so I found myself with no income, a wife with serious health issues, and 2 babies in the house.
So this was 2006,
seven,
roughly?
seven,
2007.
yeah.
Okay.
So I immediately had to go full time into trying to make the insurance business work, which, as you know, we don't make much on it. You do a mortgage for a loan for someone, you're going to probably make $2,000-3,000, but on a closing. But if you do a home auto umbrella for someone, you're lucky to make $100.
Yeah.
And so, right? And
Yeah.
so it was a real struggle, not to mention the fact I was getting 4 hours of sleep a night because I didn't want my wife to have to wake up because she needed the rest. So yeah, it was, I had no choice but to jump in and give it everything I had and build and grow the agency as quickly as I could.
So let's touch on what did that look like when you decided, and you decided right to go right independent. Did you look at the captive route at all, or how did you choose on being an independent?
Yeah, I did not. Doesn't interest me at all. And no knocks. I have friends
Yeah.
in the captive world, so and they're good agents, but I doesn't interest me at all. When I was in mortgage, I didn't want to have one bank. I had 30 banks. I wanted to be. I'm a guy who wants to. I don't want to sell you something. I'd rather take you shopping.
Yeah.
And so let's take you to the mall, go to all the stores, try on the outfits, and I'll be the one that tells you which one looks good or the clothes are going to fall apart in the dryer because they're cheap. I don't want to try and sell you something. I want to find the best solution for you,
Yeah.
and there is no one size fits all. So I had to go independent right from the beginning. Yeah.
So what did that look like? Did you know anything about the independent world? Did you
No.
research networks?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I was extremely blessed. There's you and I have a mutual friend, which I went and talked to. He's a neighbor of mine in the business, and the reason I kind of liked his lifestyle, and I went and talked to him, and he kind of said to me, Brad, I could hire you, but I don't think you're ultimately going to be happy. I think you really need to own your own thing. And it was one of the most generous things anyone's ever done for me, because he could have just brought me in. I wouldn't have known the difference. But because he did that, he told me he doesn't know anything about this. There's an aggregator, Smart Choice, and he said, but he's heard of it, and they were maybe coming into Minnesota. So I thought, fine, I'll go check that out. Prior to doing that, though, I spent many months. I'm a good researcher, so I spent many months investigating all the agency management software,
Wow.
really putting them through their paces. I like to lay a good, solid foundation. So even though I didn't have one policy sold, I wanted to make sure I had the best software possible to set myself up for success. And I started getting myself educated on coverage and finding good mentors. I was blessed to have that, not through the aggregator, but through on my own. And I did end up joining Smart Choice just as a way to try and get market access. I'm no longer a part of that, but in
Yeah.
the beginning, I had that as a little bit of a crutch for myself also.
So did you met with, like you said, you're a good researcher, and I know you're a smart guy that makes calculated decisions. But when you don't know anything that's out there, did you just what led you to go with Smart Choice? Because it was there and it was easy, or
Um, you know, I wanted an environment that I don't like to limit myself. And some of these out there, it's not the case today. So whatever I'm saying today is not applicable, but we're talking about 2007
okay,
with regards to other aggregators, of which I'm a part of one right now.
yeah,
But I guess I went that route because the model was, once you have a book size of X, they don't take any fees. And so I thought, for myself, that's get my book to that book size, and then it's basically like I'm on my own anyway, without their interference or any additional cost. Whereas some of them will take a slice of the pie or take a haircut on every dollar you earn forever.
yeah,
So I mean, that was really it. Plus the person that opened up the territory, we clicked. Really good guy. Unfortunately, he's passed away recently, but he was a good guy, and I just thought it was a good fit.
okay. So what was that process like to get out of Smart Choice?
Um, it's very difficult.
Yeah,
Very difficult. I probably couldn't have done it without his help, but he supported me in that. He quickly saw that. We sat down in his office one day, and when we agreed, this isn't right for Brad Kaplan. So he said, this is good. He said, what we have is good for a lot of agents. It's not you. I told him, I said, Ron, this is, this is, I'm outgrowing this. And he said, I know. I said, I can't stay in this. We have to figure something out. And he helped me negotiate a buyout. It's extremely uncommon and very difficult. And
yeah,
but I was just very blessed because he supported me. Had he not, they probably would have dug their heels in more. But because he said, let him go, and it was a pretty
mm,
healthy amount of money for me to be paying them, it just ended up being a win-win.
okay. So you landed with SIAA.
No,
Oh, you didn't.
no, I just
Oh, you
went
didn't.
completely on my
Oh,
own.
you didn't.
Yeah,
Okay.
completely on my own. Grew my book to a certain size, and I had been approached by a number of aggregators
Okay.
over the years, and ultimately, met with some of the leadership at SIA, and they had a program that seemed to work for me. So
Okay.
I have part of my book of business in with them, and the rest of it is
Okay.
not mixed in
Okay.
with them.
Okay. So you then did you go to the individual companies and just get direct appointments
Just a real
from
quick
that point?
aside, the SAIA team that we are affiliated with, you and I, is top notch, and they do
Yeah.
a good job, and they were extremely fair and good with helping me determine what would work best for us, and to make it a win-win. It's good for them to have us in it, and it's good for us to be a part of it. I mean, I met you, so right. Uh,
Oh, I'm not with SIA.
oh, you're not? I
No.
thought. Oh, I think I
No.
met you through some joint friends then.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, then aside from that, I approached carriers, and that's not easy depending on which carrier it is. Some are easier than others. Some of it's a 6-month courting process, and you got to ask them out for 6 months, and before they'll even hold your hand. Forget about giving you a kiss. So you got to present a really organized plan. I mean, multi-pages. You interviewed. We had to travel out of state, interview
Wow.
10 different people all the way up to the CEO of some of these companies. It's the process can be grueling and brutal, but at the end, several of them, and again, I feel very blessed. Some of the top tier carriers, did recognize what we're doing and where we came from and where we are and what the time frame was in that, and saw that we're organized and really believed in us, and we partnered.
Well, you have a lot of companies and a lot of the key companies, so you must have worked really hard to continue with those relationships. But you probably built a fair amount of those relationships, while you were with Smart Choice. They were able to see what Brad Kaplan was about, what type of business you were putting on the books, and that's huge and what kind of production you're doing. So
Yeah.
that's huge for those companies.
Yeah, I think the aggregator piece of it was, I mean, as you know, some of these carriers, they run for the hills. So as soon as you say you're a part of a network or something, then they really don't want anything to do with you. So it was actually harder.
Mhm.
I had to really make them understand that we can do this on our own. And when we left, it was when we showed that we can do that. So I think it really is just based on, they really take a look at your history and basically, I
Yeah.
think they say if that's a predictor of where you're going, and they base their decisions off of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. You mentioned that you were outgrowing Smart Choice, so you must have been growing pretty rapidly. How were you growing at the beginning of your business?
A lot of networking. My idea was to have several pillars of business, and so one of them is networking with other business professionals that are in a position that are upstream from me. Um, so, for example, when I was in mortgage, what's the best source of business for a loan officer, a mortgage broker?
A realtor.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you go talk to a realtor as a mortgage person, 100% of them are going to say, "Fine, I'll give you one if you give me one." I
Yeah.
mean, that's
Yeah.
just how they think.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's just not possible, right? Because
Yeah.
what person do you know that wakes up on a Saturday or Sunday and says, "Honey, let's go look at pretty houses," and they go to open houses and fall in love with the house, versus the person that wakes up and says, "Honey, let's figure out how to spend $500,000 and go in debt
Yeah,
for 30 years."
that's right.
Right? And so no one finds a mortgage broker before a realtor. So how's the mortgage person going to give a realtor leads?
Yeah. Right. Right.
And
Right.
so the thing is, you got to figure out in insurance who's in a position to help you, and then you have to figure out how you can help them. So I spent a lot of time doing that, but that doesn't put food on the table immediately. That's a year-long process before they'll trust you. So
Yeah.
the other piece of it is directly soliciting for business. And I would ask anybody. I remember a time when I called the phone company to ask about a billing question, and after I got my billing question answered, the woman on the phone was pretty nice. And I said, "Hey," she says, "Thanks. Have a nice day. Anything else?" And I said, "Oh, quick question." And I said, "You see on my bill there that we're an insurance agency, right?" She says, "Yeah." I said, "Well, who handles your insurance?" She says, I don't know, MetLife. And I said, "Oh my God, they're taking advantage of you." I said, "You should let me handle it. I'll take care of you. I'll save you a ton of money. I mean, you have seconds." So I just had to make it all about price, right? And she says, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, quick, give me your email address. Hurry up before before your
Yeah.
supervisor walks by." And I ended up writing her business.
Wow.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
So
uh,
is that a regular, or was that a regular thing for you where you just hit anyone up? Because Brad and I had breakfast about a month ago, and at the time we were both hiring, and we had a server that was really good, and Brad just nonchalantly said, "Hey, we're both hiring," and kind of put a little pitch out there for a service, and he was kind of half kidding, half serious, but I got the impression that she was semi interested.
Yeah.
And you would have pressed. And now I think, you and I were both looking for somebody a little bit more experienced and not necessarily somebody we had to train, but because she seemed to be, a solid customer service wide, could deal with people rather well, you hit her up and you didn't continue on it. But I think she would have been interested had you persisted. So was that always one of your things, that just everybody was a prospect?
Yeah, everybody, literally everybody and anybody. Plus, I think a lot of people are too passive.
Yeah.
You know, I did a lot of agents. They just they think the business is going to fall from the sky. You can't do that, right? I would never just hand someone my card and say, please call me. They're going to take your card and toss it in the garbage,
Yeah.
or, oh, you should call me if you ever want to talk about it. Forget that. And I would never do that. The same with when I would develop referral partners, I would tell them, don't ever give my name to one of your clients and say, you should call this guy. They'll never call. Do it the other way around. Give me their name and number, or introduce us by email so that I can be the one proactively. I'm respectful, just, but in that particular case there, Brad, I think, if I wanted to pursue, I saw that twinkle in her eye too, if I wanted to pursue it, I would have taken a pen and said, in a direct way, here, do me a favor, write down your email address real quick so I can just shoot you a quick note. I promise you'll never hear from me again if you say it, not interested. And because I'm saying do this, they'll usually do it. If I said, hey, I'm going to run to the bathroom, why don't you give me your, leave me your email address if you want, they won't do it because they're like, I don't know. But I'm handing them a pen. Like I'm literally like saying, here, take this and write your email address real quick. You're not going to get 100%, obviously, but there's a lot of ways to get business. You just have to get out of the chair, not wait for the phone to ring. You and I have a friend who lives nearby, and he'll go door to door.
Yeah.
I'll do that too. I'll do that too. No problem. You have to get creative. And when you're, in my situation, reflecting back on that, I mean, I was eating one meal a day just to try and keep food on the table for my kids.
Yeah.
So you get motivated real fast.
Yeah.
You can't wait. You can't sit around and wait.
How did you take care of your loan officer referral partners?
I actually don't have any right now.
Yeah. How did you back in the day?
I tried, you do the best you can.
Yeah.
I explained the whole I'm downstream from you thing, and they kind of get it. And with them, it was easy because I could use the realtor example, which they are all struggling with that. But I would tell them I'm here to make you look good. I really make it all about them. As soon as someone calls me, I say, oh, Brad Bolt is oh my God, you're so lucky to have him. It doesn't matter. You could be their attorney. Oh, he's your lawyer. Oh my God,
Yeah.
And so I do make it all about me trying to make the referral source look good. But I also did some gimmicky stuff. I would send them a little gas gift card for every referral, $10 or $20, go fill up your gas. I did that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to find what interests them.
Right.
We weren't into doing, any of these underhanded tactics, or I didn't want to be involved in any slimy relationship. That wasn't what I was going to do. It took us, to your point, it took us time to develop good partners. And we did that primarily by making them a priority. Whatever they handed us was a priority. And like you just mentioned, we pumped their tires whenever we could, and we communicated back. We make sure to let them know that we were taking the best possible care of their customers, because the good ones, that's what they care about. They don't want any problems.
Right.
They don't want to hear about, this Brad was kind of a jerk. I didn't hear from him for a week.
Right.
We catered to them, and over the course of years, we developed really, really good partners. For some of them, we would do a $30 Amazon gift card if that's what they loved. Great, love to.
Right.
But I think the key for us was taking the best care of their customers.
And
So
that's so true. Like, some of them would say, when you refer me, I'll give you a piece of the action or something like that. And I would say, you don't have to give me anything.
yeah,
Just send your client. If I am blessed enough to catch the person before they need you, I'm going to send them to you because you're
yeah,
doing a great job. I'm not going to send them to you because you're giving me a kickback.
yeah,
Just do the same with me. And so it's the same thing with financial planners. You know, we work with a lot of financial planners. That's really who I like to focus on now. And a lot of them come in and say, because we're insurance licensed, they'll say, if you send them to me, I'll put your name on the app for the life insurance and I'll cut you in. And I'm saying, no, that's not why I'm doing this.
yeah,
Let me handle. I'm the offense. You're the defense. I mean, I'm the defense. You're the offense. That's what I tell them. You're trying to grow their wealth. I'm trying to defend it. So
yeah,
you do the offense. I'll do the defense. Send them back to me. They need a property casualty expert. I said, I'm not sending them to you just so that I can. You can send me $100 or $1,000. Just and to your point, you do a good job and surround yourself with really good people.
yeah, yeah. You've built, from what I can tell, a pretty large team. Well, tell me what the makeup of your team looks like.
Mm. Well, I do believe in specialization and division of labor. I know that some agencies have a one size fits all attitude. I was a psych major. So I really believe that people are innately skilled at doing certain things.
Mm,
And that has played out. I don't think you hire someone to be your salesperson and your service person,
no,
throw them on a desk and they do both. Sure, someone can do both, or they can do both things okay, but in general, especially if you give some personality assessments, you're going to see some people are wired for sales, some people are wired for service. Even personal lines, commercial lines are two different personalities. So we really separate things. We have our personal lines department has 4 account managers. We call them PAMs and BAMs. Um, we refer everyone in my
nice.
agency just says PAMs and BAMs. Everyone knows who everyone's talking about as soon as we say that.
I like it.
Pam's a personal lines account manager. BAMs are a business account manager. So we have a PAM department, BAM department. We have 4 PAMs and a virtual assistant over in Manila.
Okay.
And that's our PAM department. Our BAMs, we have 3 BAMs that handle our commercial lines department. And we've got a couple of producers. And then there's me. There's Kelsey's our director of operations. She's awesome. And also have an executive assistant. So,
Yeah.
we've kind of set it up like that. So people are doing what they're really good at.
Who's managing everybody?
Ha ha.
It's
That's a trick question, right?
oh man. Well, okay. So I asked that because that's an issue that I have. You know,
Mhm.
is and it's that's something that I'm lacking. I feel that in my business I need an operations manager,
Yeah.
and I looked seriously at getting it, and I really started crunching numbers and looking at it and saying, well, flat out, I can't afford it right now. Not what I'm really looking for.
You know what? So, okay, we could do a whole podcast just
Yeah,
on this, but let's not drill down to the nitty gritty on this. But I'll just say as a favor to a friend, because I was growing, and you're throwing money at your agency, right?
yeah,
You don't know when to hire the next person, and I needed management, and you're just throwing money out there, and you're saying to yourself, well, can I afford someone now? And then a months go by. Well, how about now? How about now? And that in this business you're making a certain amount of money, and then every hire just comes directly out of your own pocket.
yes,
So it's so difficult to grow an agency and scale it. If you need to make money along the way, if you have deep enough pocket to not care or have a break-even agency for 10 years, well, then that's great.
yeah,
But I spent quite a bit of money getting consultants and things like that. And one of them really showed me with a spreadsheet where our agency is compared to best practices. And this is where the light bulb kind of went off. He said, Brad, the best practices model says you can afford 5% for management. That's it. So there's your number. And so it took me a long time, to be honest, to get my head around that. But so if you have an agency that's doing 500,000 in revenue, then you can afford 5% of that, 25,000. That's what you can afford.
Yeah.
And so, like, you can't hire a manager for 25,000,
No.
right? So you're the manager. So that 25,000 is your pay. If your agency revenue is $1 million, you can afford 50. And so if you kind of keep these numbers in place, what I did is I said, all right, I can't afford for someone to come in and manage this thing, right? But can I afford to pay someone who's really good to be a team lead and maybe give them more than I would normally give a PAM or a BAM? Can I give them an extra 10,000 to be a team lead, an extra 15,000 to take on not full management of the thing, but people stop calling me with every question. Call this person. So we do have that. So in our departments, we have a team lead. Then when our agency grew enough, I said, okay, as an agency now, could I hire someone, if I just wanted to take that best practices model, 5% of our revenue, could I hire someone for that? And I moved the supervisor of the PAM department, Kelsey, into a director of operations role with a raise. And so now who's managing all this? There is a lot that falls on my shoulders, but it's supposed to be Kelsey. And we're implementing traction and EOS and all that. But
Great.
She's doing a tremendous job now. I mean, right now, while we're talking, she's onboarding 2 employees that we just hired and dealing with a lot of administrative stuff and some other management of the BAMs and things like that. And so we are slowly shaping this thing into a Kelsey or a director of operations managed or organization with team leads and with some real structure in place. But it does take some time.
Yeah. How many of your that sounds great, and it makes sense to instead of maybe hiring somebody outside your office, if you don't have somebody inside your office that already knows the business, that knows the personalities, that knows who they're working with,
right?
And if they're a good solid worker, then they probably have the respect of the rest of the team. So it's a natural transition.
We were very blessed to have that. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't always exist. I would have had to go outside the agency, but the natural person was the person we selected.
Perfect. Yeah, that's outstanding. What, how many remote workers do you have?
We have one.
You have one. It's just the VA.
Yeah.
And what kind of things do you have the VA doing for your office?
The tip. I know that you've interviewed a friend of ours who owns a VA company. I'm friends with him. I'm friends with a couple of owners of other VA companies. It's all the usual stuff. It's anything that's non-client facing and doesn't require a license. Just data entering stuff into quote raters, processing simple changes, things like that. Doing some verifications, all of that.
Yeah, I like to ask because I think I put myself in this category. I poo-pooed the idea of having a VA. I didn't think it was necessary. I didn't like the sound of it. I didn't see that there was going to be value to my business. And then I learned after finally hiring one that there's tremendous value. If you had licensed people doing that type of work before, that is a big waste of money, and it's getting that off of their desk. Licensed people don't need to be doing mortgage verifications. They don't even be doing most of the quoting.
Right.
I mean, if that's done by somebody else and put on their desk, you're just able to operate way more efficiently.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like to ask just to see, and sometimes I get surprised with what other people are doing, because the versatility of so many of these people is massive.
Mm-hmm.
So let's touch on, you just returned from the HUG convention with Hawksoft.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me some of your key takeaways from that event.
Well, my biggest key takeaway was that I selected the right management system.
You already knew that.
Yeah. I'm a big cheerleader and a big fan. We can talk more about that path, but really, honestly, I've done my research here.
Yeah.
And going to these conventions is so highly worthwhile. I don't know why someone would not invest in their agency enough to just get a plane ticket and a couple nights in a hotel.
Yeah.
It's what runs your agency, right?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
what runs your agency. You throw thousands of dollars at mailing postcards in the hopes that someone will call you, but not spend $1,000 to go really figure out how to supercharge your um, your agency. Today, I had someone call me that's on a different management system and say, the average user will probably use 10% of the features in their management system. What percent do you think you use? And I said, 90.
Wow.
You
Wow.
know,
Really?
um, we are using, I want to squeeze every drop out of that thing, right? It's a
Yeah.
lot of money. But so back to your question about my biggest key takeaways, aside from reaffirming my buying decision, they are moving to a true cloud-based environment, which is great. So that's a big thing and a big shift for that software company, which will just open up the doors tremendously for users, but also in having some pretty intimate conversations with some of the leadership and some of the developers. That's the software side of their business. The switching to a different coding system allows them to roll out features and benefits faster. And so instead of you give them a suggestion and maybe 2 years from now they can implement it, they'll be able to say, if they agree it's a good idea, have someone write code and put it in the next feature. So those are in the next little rollout. But so those are some great things that they're doing. Because we use almost everything in there, I wasn't sure that I would come up with here's a feature that you guys should use.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, there was one, and you're a HawkSoft user.
Yes.
So are you using HawkLink?
A little bit.
Okay, yeah. Well, Sean Hawkins,
Yeah.
one of the owners, he told me, and we were chatting, he said, just check it out. I know I've been telling you this for years, Brad. And I was like, okay, fine. So I went to the breakout session for HawkLink, and then I'm killing myself walking out of there going, I can't believe
Yeah.
that I have ignored this
I
for the
know.
past 3 years.
I know.
Really mad at myself. That has a tremendous amount of power and flexibility. So Kelsey and I are already strategizing, like, this is going to change everything.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's a number of features that they are now including that I've been pining away for quite some time. So just the whole experience is great, as you get to network there with other agency owners and talk about things that aren't even software related. Like you and I may be chatting right now, but you can do that.
Yeah.
And in the personnel there, and the staffing, they are just, it's an incredible organization.
Yeah. Agreed.
And I sit and try and evaluate, how can we be more like them from a culture standpoint? Because every one of their people is so excited to work there.
Yeah. So it makes it, yeah.
You're just jealous. Like, okay, what are they doing? How could I do the better? How can I be like this?
Yeah. You, like you said, you're a big cheerleader for HawkSoft. What in your opinion separates HawkSoft as a management system as over some of the others? You don't have to name anybody else, but what makes them great?
Sure, totally. I think first and foremost, you have to go back to who they hire and who they have in place and how they empower their team to really take ownership and care. They really care. They actually do. And they actually listen. They really do. You don't feel like you're talking to a black hole ever. You feel like if you say something, you'll see someone take out their pen and paper and write it down. And more than anything, they listen to agency owners as far as what our pain points are. So in other words, features, fine. But it's all about, like you just alluded to, having a VA. It's about efficiency, right? Saving mouse clicks. If they, it's fun to talk to them, because if you can talk about, say, a way to save 2 mouse clicks, they're really into that.
Yeah.
How to make the workflows work for an agency owner, and save time, even down to can we save 10 seconds on this repetitive task that you do 100 times a day, and that's 100 seconds times, however many staff times however many weeks, and suddenly we just freed up weeks of someone's life. And so with that philosophy, you have a real partnership. And some of these other agents, management systems are owned by private equity and venture capital and huge conglomerates, and it's not personal. It's really a
No.
totally different thing.
No. Yeah, and this is a privately held company, which is rare. You hit on the difference from where I was before, which I was with AMS 360 before, and to what Hawksoft is. And this is just one man's opinion.
Yeah.
They weren't listening, didn't care if you were there.
Right.
The entire time that I had them, which was nearly 10 years, could give a customer service lousy. Maybe they've changed. Maybe it's wonderful now. Absolutely awful before.
Right.
Once I moved over to Hawksoft, I could tell right away there was a different feel to it for that company. They were listening and adapting.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many other companies are do that. Of course, they're not going to be able to honor every request. That would be insane. But they are listening and they do care. And when you go to that convention, they call it like a family reunion.
Yeah.
It is really impressive, the culture that Hawksoft has.
It's super impressive, and it's also funny you told me not to name names and then you did.
Did I? I don't remember. No, you can name names. Name all the names. I don't care. I've had Hawksoft for 2 years. We are probably using roughly, I'm just going to throw it out there, maybe 60% of it. And I was really disappointed that I wasn't able to attend this year. But now that we're back to a full staff load, really looking forward to doing a deep dive in there and taking advantage of everything that we can.
You're going to love the new version too. You're going to absolutely love it. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say.
That was the other piece of it, is that with my previous company, it didn't seem like there was going to be any improvement. I thought they were lagging behind, and there at least wasn't communicated down to my level that there was going to be any advancements and improvement to the technology or the systems. I've heard nothing but that since I've joined Hawksoft.
Yeah.
So I too have been really impressed with their program, with their people. I'm super happy with them. I wanted to touch on this. So back to your team, how so you, with a big operation like this that you've grown from scratch, how are you spending your days now? What's a typical day look like for you?
Right now, really focused on infrastructure, streamlining processes. We're implementing EOS, which traction. I don't know if you say you're implementing traction or implementing EOS. I still haven't figured that out, but whatever. It's a great system when we're doing that. Yeah. But I'm really working on that and documentation of things. I really like the standardized procedures. McDonald's has ketchup, mustard, pickle, right? You don't get hired and walk in there and decide that you're going to put the pickle on first, and then the
system.
And then you're going to put the mustard, pickle, ketchup, and then some manager is going to go, "Why are you doing that?" And you say, "What's the difference? It all ends up in the same place." It's going to say, "No, you do that, you're fired. Bye, see ya." Yeah. Because I know if I go get a quarter pounder with cheese in Plymouth, Minnesota, or in Texas, or in Mexico, or in Tel Aviv, Israel, or in Germany, it doesn't matter. It's going to look the same, taste the same, because everyone's making it the exact same. So I like, obviously not everything can be like that, but for the things that can be that are repetitive, like Hawksoft has these email templates. That's huge. I mean, I bet you most of the users don't even know that's there. And if I read the emails that go out of here, and just a simple thing like, here's your auto ID cards, I have 7 people sending 7 different messages.
Yeah.
And one of them may inadvertently have a typo or a grammar mistake, not because they don't know what they're doing. They're awesome, but it just happens, right? You or
Yeah.
I could do that. Or a formatting awkwardness, or they say, why not just make templates for that kind of stuff? And then you just click a button and that's what goes out. And then you want to customize it with how's your kid's soccer game? Fine, throw that in there. But so I'm really working on documenting these processes and procedures. And with the new Hawksoft that's coming out, which is really needed, a way to automate certain workflows. For example, your one of our PAMs changes an auto for an auto policy and then thinks they're done. No, you got to go change the umbrella too. Now we got to hope that they remember to do that, right?
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to know that, but someone could forget, right? Now you have a problem. So what if that workflow was automated so that when you did the one thing, the next thing popped up and told you to do it? And so we're really working on that. That's kind of when you say what takes up most of my day, and kind of helping shape the place so that we can, like you and I were talking before this, let me do some of the stuff that I really need to be doing to further the agency and grow it, like going to the Hawksoft convention, big picture stuff, and let the team leads and the director of operations, handle what they're supposed to be doing. We also have promoted our most senior advisor to a director of sales. So now he can handle some of that sales training. And he's awesome. I've known him for 30 years. There's no one better than this guy.
Yeah.
So he's taking on some of that role for me now, whereas I used to do all the sales training, this is how you do this, and this is how you go find business. And now he's doing that stuff. So I'm slowly working my way out of all those, the day-to-day stuff like that.
Yeah. And then so you can oversee it. That adjusting workflows, that's a massive undertaking, especially with the size of group that you have, because you're turning around a big ship,
Yeah.
And there's a lot of moving parts, and you made one mention of a really key one, even of adjusting the umbrella when there's an underlying change. But to institute these things, or even the emails, everybody's, all of your PAMs have been doing it, not necessarily on their own way and doing it rogue, but they've been sending out emails for years. What's the problem? It is difficult to get people to change some of their patterns.
Right. It is difficult, but if you put together, this is your expectation, and I need to see, it's like raising your kids. It's the same thing. If I tell my kid, clean your room, this is what, and I take a picture of a clean room and I tape it to the door and I say, this is what your room needs to look like when it's done. There's the expectation, right?
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about, well, there's still a sock in the corner and it's good enough because my underwear is under the bed instead of on the middle of the floor. No, this is your expectation. So you can do the same thing with your staff and say, for these certain workflows or for these certain types of communications, it's expected that you're going to use our template, and we definitely want to customize it so we don't lose that personal touch. And we do know it's 80-20 rule. 20% of the time, you're not the template's not going to be appropriate or fit, and you're going to custom send your own email. That's fine. That's fine. But we can really work on that stuff, and so that's what we want to do.
And that gives you good discussion topics for your weekly meetings.
Exactly. Yeah.
And for your, I mean, that's perfect. What have you found to be the biggest challenges as an agency owner?
Staffing. Staffing, and it changes over the years. Now is tougher than ever. I mean, you drive through Starbucks at 4 p.m. and they're closed because they don't have anyone to work there. And so what's interesting here is that there's a shortage of hires, but I just put out an ad on Indeed and I got 400 resumes. Now, here's the thing. I put out 2 ads, Brad. I put out 2 ads. We're in Minnesota, okay?
Yeah.
I put out 1 ad in Minnesota that said, must work in the office, not remote.
Yeah.
Okay. I placed the identical ad. Nothing was changed. Same wording, same salary, same everything, same awesome ad. And it said, this one I placed in Des Moines, Iowa, just as a test, A/B testing. And it said fully remote. Okay. I got 400 resumes
Wow.
on fully remote. And how many did I get for the Minnesota only one?
2.
One.
1.
One. Yep. So one of the U.S. What are the biggest challenges? I think one is managing a remote workforce is challenging. There are a
Yeah.
lot of pluses to it, and there's a lot of different management that you have to learn. Right? How you suddenly have to start looking at people's activity lists and how many tasks or suspenses they're actually accomplishing, and are they also watching Netflix, or are they on the treadmill? I was talking to a guy who said he found out that one of his account managers was answering the phone while at the treadmill at the gym. You have to make sure you're not getting that. But so those are challenges. And then also straight up, I'm getting a lot of resumes, but you want to make sure that people actually know what they're doing. And so you think you're doing a great job for your clients, right? Because you're getting rid of someone who's doing a poor job, an inadequate job. And you think you're upgrading the system to help the client. And then we send out surveys that say, how are we doing? And you get negative feedback saying reduce turnover. It's like, I can't win, right?
Yeah.
If I keep the person that's doing a bad job, you complain to me that they're not answering their phone, they don't return phone calls, they didn't process the thing correctly. And then when I replace them, you tell me, yeah, you got too much turnover. So, there's no making the customer happy these days, it seems sometimes.
I had a very similar experience. In fact, you and I had talked about ideal traits, and someone else had turned me on to them too, and I just recently used them. I had a very similar, and I didn't. In fact, you had told me that when you put just a little bit of money into Indeed and you ran it for, I don't know what it was, 24 or 48 hours. But I did the exact same thing where I ran one ad in Minnesota and then another one nationwide. And in a short amount of time, and that one obviously was fully remote, in a short amount of time, I got 60 applicants, and most of them, 35 of them completed the assessment, which, takes a little time. It probably takes a good 30 minutes to complete that total assessment. And in the Minnesota, I got 2. And neither of them had a shred of insurance experience or were qualified for what I had put in there. So
right.
I don't know what that tells us, but yeah, it's a challenge. So tell me about some mistakes that you've made along the way, or some of the bigger mistakes, maybe a regret or just something you said, I wish I would have done that differently.
Yeah. One of my biggest mistakes was going away from Hawksoft to EasyLinks as an agency management system for a minute. There were some challenges, with some features, and I will say I got wooed into doing that, and for certain very specific reasons. And I thought I was going to have a mutiny on my hands. My staff was hysterical, and I really thought that my top commercial guy was going to quit. Honest to God.
Wow.
He was like, if you don't do, I can't work like this. I didn't want to leave, but there were some features that I just felt I had to have, and those are remedied now. I went back, and I've never looked back, and it was a real eye-opening experience for me. So that was one mistake I made. And others, I have, I've made some bad producer hires. People I thought had a lot of potential.
Yeah.
And to pay them salaries to come on just so they could, feed their families, and you can't put someone on straight commission out of the chute, so you have to pay them. And, several, if not most, just didn't work out. It's hard business. If I go through the Arby's drive-through and I say, give me a turkey sandwich, fries, and a bottle of water, and then they say, great. And then they say, do you want a cookie too? And I say, no. And they say, they just came out of the oven, they're really warm. And and it's only $1. I'm like, all right, fine, throw a cookie in there. You know what I mean? So did they sell me? Yeah, yes. They sold me, right? But that's not sales. Because did they find me? I'm already a customer. I'm already buying food there. Did they go flag me down on the side of the street and wave me in? And so, lot of people think sales is offering the cookie. It's, with producers, their job is to go find a business,
Yeah.
and so it's a very difficult job, and it's really rewarding, but not everyone can handle it or do it. And I made some bad producers hires and wasted a lot of money that way.
Well, here's a question I have for you. Is it something we learn as owners and business owners? And you had some experience previously, so maybe this wasn't as difficult for you. But with those hires that didn't work out, I how long of a leash did you give them, before you decide
Too
to have
long,
that difficult too
way
long?
too long, way too
Yeah.
long.
I think
I
that's
mean,
the mistake that we make,
yeah, it's embarrassing. I don't even want to tell
right?
you, but one of them was a year.
Yeah.
Um, one of them was 6 months. It's just, you have to give someone enough time to ramp up. But at a certain point, you can do it or you can't.
Yeah.
Can you go knock on doors for 20, for 2 hours in the afternoon and get rejected and still show up the next day with a smile on your face? Then you've got some potential. But if you're going to curl up in a ball, like if that woman I asked on my phone service, if she would have shut me down and I would have just been like, well, there you go. See, everyone says no. I mean, you just have to,
Yeah.
who cares, and go to the next one.
Yeah, you have to be resilient to be
Yeah.
a solid and be able to accept rejection. It's not a big deal, and you pick up the next phone. But I think I think that's the mistake that we make as owners is yes, maybe we make some bad hires. I think all of us are going to do that eventually, but it's how we handle the ones that shouldn't be there that aren't working out.
Mhm.
I'm guilty of it, and I learned and after making a few mistakes and keeping people for far too long, I adapted and adjusted and got rid of people
Yeah.
as necessary. Last question before I let you go, and we already probably touched on it a little bit with your implementing the traction, which is a huge undertaking, and it's just going to improve your business. What kinds of things are there? Any other things that you would like to improve on in 2023?
Um, Probably, that's so cliche to say better work-life balance, right?
Yeah.
So everybody says that. But the thing is,
No.
if you love what you do, you're not working, right? And so, um, you and I can go out for breakfast, which we've done, and we talk about work, but it doesn't feel like working. We're having fun,
No.
you know,
Yeah.
and we have some mutual friends, and if we go out, having an enjoyable time, but we're talking about work. If one, in general, I love coming into the office or talking with clients. I like that piece of it. But the reality is that after doing this for 16, 17 years, I do need to focus on. I've come to realize I really need a different outlet. So
Yeah.
I've been trying to focus on some of the things I enjoy doing. This in the summer, I like to go wake surfing. So
Oh,
instead of,
wow, really?
yeah, yeah. So
Impressive.
we'll have to do that. But in the past, I've looked out the window and been like, it's I got to take care of all this. Maybe I'll go tomorrow, and then the summer's over.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping this year to make some time to do that kind of stuff. Maybe take a couple nights or a weekend day and not work all weekend, but actually
Mhm.
do something different.
You know what? I think that's first of all, I love that as an answer. Nobody's given an answer like that, and I think that's important as any of the others of and I think just like that, to improve that work-life balance, you have to be disciplined about it, just like we're disciplined about all these other things that we want to get done, and you have to be intentional.
You do, and it's so easy to. Oh God, I love what you just said there, because it's the honest to God truth. So I really like ballroom dancing, and so last night my wife sends me a note and says, "Hey, this big band's playing over at this bar, blah blah blah. We should go." And instead of, and normally it would be like, "Hey, should I go?" And I'd be like, because I really do have a lot to take care of here. Like
Yeah, me
I could
too.
have so easily been like, you know what, next week. But I forced myself to say
Good.
no, and I had a great time. I went. I
Yeah.
said, we'll get there at 7:30. We stayed for an hour and a half, had a blast, and went home and just was. I didn't think about work while I was there. It was
Yeah.
great.
nobody says at the end of their life, I wish I would have worked more.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so we need to take care of ourselves for sure, and enjoy those moments. This might be justification, but I heard another agent that do this. I really enjoy to golf, and for me golf is like therapy, and that might be a justification, but it really is, because I don't think of anything else. And last night, I got out of the office and just went to the driving range, and that is just my time you
Yes.
know
So and when you can focus, because if you're just going for a walk, if you're, and maybe some people can just zen out like that. So I'm not saying, but for me, if I just go for a walk, then I'm probably thinking about work, right? Which is
Mhm.
okay. As a
Yeah.
business owner and entrepreneur, you need those times where you're not doing the task, but you're thinking about the big picture things. You're the
Yeah.
visionary. But like the golf thing for you, or like it used to be water skiing before I had an accident, and now I try to wake surfing. While you're doing that activity, you're so focused on that activity, you're really not thinking
Correct.
about work for that, even if it's just a few minutes, you need that.
You're not thinking about work. You're not thinking about family. It is your mental break. So
Hmm.
the more I talk about it, the more it is my therapy, and I can keep justifying it. So this is working.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey man, this has been great. Thank you so much for your time. I know I kept you a little bit over, but
Oh, that's
I knew we would have a great conversation. So and I think it was. I think everything went outstanding. So thanks again for your time. Thanks for doing this. And
my pleasure.
everybody else, thanks for listening to another episode of the Agent to Owners podcast. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Brad. Really appreciate the opportunity. You do such a good job with this. It's fun. It's fun to watch you like right here in action.